So the Adizero Adios Pro Evo 1 is our lightest racing shoe that we have ever created. It only weighs 138 grams in a UK 8.5 size that I have in my hand right now.
So Adidas, you've made the Adizero Adios Pro Evo 1. I find this shoe to be a little bit controversial. I want to dive into why I find it a little bit controversial, but I want to go for a run first today. Just get a quick one out of the way. I meant to make this video about a week ago and a lot has happened since then. So I'm feeling better now and I want to jump into my thoughts on this long named shoe. I'm just going to call it the Pro Evo 1 for now, but let's jump into it. All right, let's talk some more about this Pro Evo 1. We first started to hear some buzz around this shoe around 2 weeks ago. We knew the price that it would come in at, we knew the weight, we knew it would be very, very, very limited in quantity, and we knew there were potentially 2 drops coming for this fall in regards to the Pro Evo 1. Now initially, anybody who signed up for the chance to purchase this shoe really didn't know any of the details about the performance benefits, meaning there was no real statistical data shared regarding how much an additional performance benefit the shoe would provide to runners. Think back to like the Nike 4% it was supposed to make you 4% more efficient or 4% faster, however you want to look at it. There was an actual statistical number that they were telling you were going to perform this much better. What the public did know is that it was a non-compression molded Light Strike Pro midsole with 39 millimeters of stack height in the heel. This is different than the current Light Strike Pro foam available today, like what I used in the Prime X Strung when I was out on my run. And we knew the rocker point was moved towards the heel, giving it a more aggressive feeling, giving you more rocker and more of your forefoot to actually be affected by that rocker, whereas the older shoe was a little bit further towards the toes, so you didn't feel as much of that aggressive rocker, when you were out for a run in the Adios Pro 3. And like I said, we knew that weight was incredibly light at just 4.8 ounces. For some reference, the Nike Next Percent currently sits at 6.6 ounces and still feels like an incredibly light running shoe. We knew the rubber was very thin, leading to a lot of the weight savings. It was basically a thin piece of rubber that they sort of look like they painted onto the sole of the shoe. It is not Continental rubber, and ultimately this is part of, I think, why the shoe is only going to last for one marathon, which the public did know up front. So with that little bit of detail, buyers had to be willing to lay out $500. Now I don't really like that, but while this so far does bother me as a strategy to release the shoe, it gets worse in my personal opinion, and this isn't exactly the part that I was most concerned about, the price. I do have some fears about where this shoe may reset the benchmark for pricing in the racing shoe market. We've kind of settled in that like $200 to $275 range for some of the best marathon racing shoes and general racing shoes on the market today. And for the most part, you'll get way more mileage out of them than the Pro Evo 1. So now with this outlier at $500 per race, will we start to see some of the other prices creep up to fill that gap and ultimately fill the pockets of the brands themselves? Will they use that as an opportunity to raise the price and come up with some other benefits that they add to their shoe to justify that price increase? We'll see. Obviously, that's something that worries me, and it does sort of change the whole dynamic of running, where it's supposed to be this really accessible sport where all you need is a pair of shoes and shorts. We'll definitely see where that goes in the future. There are some concerns, but again, not my main real worry or main point of contention with this shoe. My main fear, and what I think is not quite fair in the racing world, is the availability of this shoe. To my knowledge, we're still just seeing the initial pairs reach consumers, and the total number released to the public is just 521 pairs worldwide. So even if you can afford them, good luck getting a pair. My issue with this, we've seen the performance now in Berlin. I would never take away anything from an athlete and chalk up the record to just the shoes themselves. It still takes an incredible amount of time and work to be the best at anything. We just saw the women's world record smashed in the women's marathon in Berlin by over 2 minutes this past weekend. And, she was wearing the Pro Evo 1, a record that had stood since 2019 when Bridget Kosgei ultimately broke the record in Chicago in 2019. And at that point, a lot of people chalked that record up to, again, getting some of the benefits out of the Nike Next Percent, which had just released as a shoe in that year. So fast forward to today, if the shoe does help deliver some additional performance above other competitors, how can we say it's fair to release only 521 pairs to the public? Where I live, there's quite a few, large races that do have significant prize money available. Many of these races do not have a pro field or elite competitors that come out to race every day. So it does open the door for currently unsponsored or non-professional athletes to take home some money for their performance and hard work. And I'm sure this is true around the States and really around the world. Now, imagine someone next to you on the starting line, has this shoe, the Pro Evo 1. Maybe someone pays the $500 and hopes to try the shoe at a local 10K or half marathon, get a couple races out of it. Maybe they can use those extra benefits to squeeze themselves out in front of the pack and claim the prize money. While it's certainly no guarantee, it does bother me that, again, potentially superior pair of shoes could edge a few runners out ahead of others, and it's just only available if you're lucky enough to get them through, I guess, this sort of lottery system that comes from Adidas. That's the part that bothers me the most. I have a hard time understanding the regulations that are put in place because there's supposed to be, availability of the shoes to the public before they're used in these, big world marathon majors or for even professional athletes. I don't fully understand when or where that happened before they were allowed to be used in Berlin, and I'm certainly not really sure that I agree with 521 pairs total being released to the public at this point being considered widely available. That just doesn't sit well with me, and again, it just leads to unfair competition in my opinion, even if it's a professional athlete or someone lucky enough to get a pair who happens to be incredibly fast on their own merit. It just creates that little bit of a gap where you wonder, well, hey, what if the one next to them really wanted to run in that shoe as well? Somebody wins over somebody else and they were wearing the Pro Evo 1, somebody else couldn't get their hands on it. It just adds this weird gray area and kind of muddies the water for what is fair in competition, and that's the part that bothers me the most with this shoe. So I'll leave it there. I'm curious what you think about all of this. I definitely want to know down in the comments below if you were able to get a pair or if you have any thoughts to add to the conversation. If you have a pair for yourself, how are you going to use it? Is it for a PR that you have in mind in an upcoming race this fall or in the next spring? Would you buy a pair for $500 if they become more widely available in the future? Let me know down below. I definitely am really interested in this topic, and I'm just curious as somebody who's not at the front of a pack, who's really not ever going to spend $500 on a racing shoe just to do my own best. That seems really, really out of the question. It's just so expensive, and there's just no real return for what I'd be laying out. So thanks for watching, everybody. Consider subscribing down below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.